Welcome. I want to tell you something honestly. This is not the kind of video where I say, here are 5 tips to improve your life, and then disappear. This isn't about motivation for 10 minutes, only for nothing to change afterward. This is something bigger, something more real. Because what we're talking about today is the fundamental difference between a peaceful life and a painful one. We live in a world where everyone, it seems, craves a reaction. They might insult you because they wish to control you. They might ignore you because they seek to break your spirit. They could spread untruths just to watch you unravel. And most people habitually react instantly, emotionally, loudly. In doing so, they relinquish their peace, their sense of control, their very power. The poignant truth is, most individuals don't even fully grasp the extent to which they undermine their own lives through their impulsive reactions. That single argument that irrevocably altered a friendship. That one hastily sent message that brought a relationship to an unexpected end. That fleeting moment of anger that fundamentally reshaped everything. So, today, I am asking you to slow down, to truly listen. Because if you genuinely embrace what I am about to share, you will transform. You will become the kind of person who doesn't just merely survive the tides of life. You will become someone untouchable, calm, strong, focused, and profoundly peaceful. Not because the world suddenly becomes easy, but because you no longer permit the world to dictate the state of your mind. This video, you see, is not solely for those who pursue external success. It is for those who are weary of being fragmented by the incessant pull of their emotions. It is for those who are prepared to finally reclaim their inherent power. And I make you this promise. If you journey with me until the very end, you will apprehend a kind of strength that most people never cultivate in their entire existence. This isn't just a dose of motivation. It also serves to build a powerful command of English. Every word is chosen for its simplicity. Every sentence crafted to impart strength and clarity. It's not merely about articulating better. It's about thinking better. Let's begin. Our first lesson. Reacting, in essence, means you are relinquishing control. When another person can metaphorically press a button and ignite your anger, when a single sentence from someone can entirely shift your mood, when you permit their insult, their silence, or their opinion to fundamentally shake you, you are no longer the sovereign of your own life. You are, quite frankly, being manipulated like a puppet, and the strings are your own emotions. There's a common misconception that reacting swiftly signifies strength. Yet, a quick reaction rarely denotes power. It more often reveals how easily one can be swayed or manipulated. Each time you react without a moment of deliberate thought, you surrender something invaluable. Your peace, your vital energy, your intrinsic power. Now, pause and reflect on this. How many significant moments in your life were tragically undermined because you reacted too quickly? How many instances did you raise your voice at someone you deeply cherished, only to be consumed by regret later? How many times did you impulsively reply to a message in anger, only to wish desperately that you could somehow undo it? This, my friends, is the insidious face of emotional subjugation. You might not be literally bound by chains on your hands, but your emotional responses are being dictated by the external world around you. And the most heartbreaking aspect? You often don't even realize it. Consider, for example, a young man, let's call him Anne, diligently working in an office. He was known for his dedication, often staying late, always adhering to the protocols. But one day, during a team meeting, his manager criticized him quite unfairly and publicly in front of all his colleagues. It wasn't just unjust. It wasn't even accurate. In that charged moment, An exploded. He raised his voice, argued vehemently, and defensively presented his case. The room fell into an awkward silence. The atmosphere became palpably tense. Later, the manager, seemingly unperturbed, calmly walked away. And Anne, unfortunately, became known thereafter as the emotional one, rather than the diligent worker or the insightful individual he truly was. His single, impulsive reaction, born of understandable hurt, dismantled the reputation he had meticulously constructed over years. He didn't win that exchange. He lost because he allowed someone else to control the manner of his response. The profound solution lies in what we might call the 5-second rule. Here is what truly strong individuals practice. They pause. The next time someone disrespects you, the next time someone chooses to deceive, to shout, to ignore, or to insult you, do not speak immediately. Do not move impulsively. Do not react. Just breathe. Inhale. Exhale for 5 deliberate seconds. And in those precious 5 seconds, you reclaim the one thing that no one else should ever possess: your intrinsic control. Because when you introduce that conscious pause, something truly remarkable occurs. The immediate surge of emotion begins to subside. The internal fire starts to calm, and your brain, instead of being consumed by the heat of the moment, begins to think, to reason. You can still choose to respond if the situation demands it, but now your words will emanate from strength, not folly. Your actions will be guided by wisdom, not raw emotion. This simple habit, this single, deliberate pause, holds the potential to transform your entire life, in your relationships, in your professional endeavors, in moments of conflict, in family dynamics, in every conceivable facet of your existence. Because when you choose not to react, you are not exhibiting weakness. You are demonstrating profound power. You are rendering yourself untouchable. You are, in essence, truly free. Now, let's turn our attention to the inescapable reality that most reactions, unfortunately, blossom into regrets. There are moments in life we all wish we could magically rewind and erase. A single message, a solitary word, one shouted outburst, a swift decision made in anger, born of fear, executed without the grace of deliberation. These are the moments we often carry with us, sometimes for years, sometimes for a lifetime. It is not the insult they delivered that burdens you. It is the way you reacted to it. It is not the failure itself that defines you. It is the way you emotionally collapsed when it occurred. It is not the problem that weighs you down. It is your unchecked, emotional reaction to it. Many people mistakenly believe that reacting quickly demonstrates authenticity or honesty. But, in truth, swift, unthinking reactions often stem from a place of pain, not genuine power. Reacting is what one does when merely trying to survive. It is rarely what one does when striving to grow. We tend to scream when we feel small. We blame others when we feel vulnerable or weak. We engage in conflict when we feel deeply hurt. But once the charged moment has passed, what remains? More often than not, guilt, shame, and a heavy weight of regret. We invariably begin to realize, I should have remained silent. I should have taken a moment. I should have simply let it go. But by then, the intricate tapestry of cause and effect has been woven, and it is often too late to undo. For reactions, once unleashed, cannot simply be deleted. Words, once spoken, do not vanish into thin air. Actions do not disappear without consequence. And people, regrettably, do not easily forget. Pause and truly contemplate this. How many precious connections have you inadvertently pushed away because you reacted too quickly? How many needless arguments could have been gracefully circumvented? How many relationships, once vibrant, could have been tenderly preserved? How many days, meant for peace and tranquility, did you inadvertently disrupt simply because you permitted a fleeting, challenging moment to usurp control of your inner world? And here, perhaps, is the most profound and painful truth of all. Sometimes, you only truly comprehend what you have irrevocably lost when it is far too late to mend it. There was once a woman, let's call her Lynn, who loved her younger sister deeply. They were inseparable, bound by a bond closer than most friendships. There was once a woman, let's call her Lynn, who loved her younger sister deeply. They were inseparable, bound by a bond closer than most friendships. But one day, amidst a boisterous family gathering, her sister, perhaps inadvertently, made a rather sarcastic comment. It wasn't just any comment. It touched a raw nerve, a deeply sensitive spot that resonated with an old, unhealed wound within Lynn. In that searing moment, Lynn erupted. Her voice, usually soft, became a shout that sliced through the room's joyful chatter. She unleashed words she immediately knew she could never retract. Words that weren't even truly accurate, but were instead saturated with accumulated pain and long-buried emotional debris. The entire family fell silent, an awkward, heavy quiet descending upon them. Her sister, visibly hurt, simply left. Days turned into weeks, then months. But that profound relationship, once so vibrant, never fully recovered its original warmth. Years later, Lynn would often find herself gazing at a cherished photograph of the two of them, tears welling up. Not because of the cutting remark her sister had made, but because of the destructive force of her own reaction. One fleeting moment, one uncontrolled emotional outburst led to a lifetime tinged with regret. The profound solution to such painful echoes from the past lies in a deliberate practice. Train yourself not merely to react, but to respond. This isn't a magical trick. It's a profound shift in mindset, a muscle cultivated through daily discipline, an inner art developed over time. When something painful or challenging invariably happens, you must practice a single transformative sentence in the quiet sanctuary of your mind. This emotion is real, but this reaction is a choice. Yes, you will feel the hurt. Yes, the situation might be profoundly unfair. Yes, every fiber of your being might scream for you to lash out, to defend, to justify. But don't. Instead, cultivate the sacred pause. Close your mouth. Still your body. Allow the emotion to rise like a wave in the ocean, but do not move with its immediate momentum. Feel it. Grant yourself permission to fully experience the anger, the sadness, the fear, but only in silence. Name it. Ask yourself, with gentle curiosity, am I reacting purely to this immediate moment, or to something ancient, something unaddressed that still resides within me? Wait. Give it 10 minutes, or an hour, or even a full day if necessary. Then, and only then, choose to respond. Let your response emerge with truth, with calm, and with an undeniable, quiet power. This single cultivated habit can save invaluable relationships. It can preserve your peace of mind. It can literally reshape your future. For reacting might offer a fleeting illusion of strength in the heat of the moment, but genuine peace is infinitely stronger, and peace, by its very nature, never, ever creates regret. To truly grasp this, we must delve deeper into the very architecture of our inner world. When we talk about cultivating the space between stimulus and response, we are inviting you to become less like the boat tossed furiously by the waves, and more like the lighthouse keeper, witnessing the storm from a place of unshakable stillness. This profound observation allows us to recognize that our emotions are not us, but rather transient phenomena, like clouds gracefully drifting across the vast blue sky of our consciousness. For those on the journey of English fluency, this is an invaluable insight. Imagine, for a moment, that surge of frustration when you stumble over a complex grammatical structure, or the embarrassment when you mispronounce a word in front of others. Our instinct often is to react, to mentally scold ourselves, to shrink inward, to feel a surge of self-doubt. Yet, if we simply observe that internal turmoil, that knot in the stomach, the sudden blush, the racing thoughts, without judgment, we create a vital distance. We see the emotion as a visitor, not the landlord of our being. This simple act of witnessing, without engagement, prevents the emotion from hijacking our cognitive functions, functions absolutely essential for language learning. This brings us to disentangling the narrative, a critical step where we gently question the stories our minds instantly construct around an event. Our reactions are rarely to the raw facts, but to our interpretation of them, the meanings we assign, the assumptions we unconsciously weave, often rooted in past experiences. When learning English, perhaps you receive constructive criticism on your writing. The immediate reactive narrative might be, "I'm not good enough. My English is terrible. I'll never be fluent." This story, if unchallenged, leads to feelings of inadequacy and a reluctance to continue. However, by asking, "Is this truly an ending, or merely a pivot point, a profound redirection?" as Lena did when her cherished project crumbled, you begin to unravel these self-defeating narratives. Is your manager's feedback a personal attack, or an opportunity for growth? Is a momentary misunderstanding in a conversation a sign of your linguistic failure, or simply a common challenge in cross-cultural communication? This intellectual humility, this open-minded skepticism towards our internal storyteller, is a profound act of self-liberation. It allows you to transform perceived failures into neutral data points, stepping stones, rather than stumbling blocks on your path to English fluency. Consider Ilara, for instance. She sat at her desk, a faint aroma of tea attempting to quell her usual morning anxieties. A colleague approached, his voice laced with accusation. "Ilara, I heard you deliberately withheld information about the new project. Your actions have put us behind schedule." The words were a physical blow. A cold shock, then a searing heat, flushed her cheeks. Her breath caught. Every fiber of her being screamed to retort, to passionately defend her integrity, to dismantle his unjust assumptions. The internal monologue was a raging torrent. How could he think that, after all my dedication? Does he not know me? Her jaw tightened, hands clenched. The imagined satisfaction of seeing his face fall, of him realizing his error, was a powerful, almost irresistible pull. Yet, amidst this storm, a peculiar stillness began to emerge. Not a suppression of feeling, but an observation. She felt the indignation, acknowledged its fiery presence, but instead of being consumed, she simply noticed it. A deeper part of her whispered, "What would that achieve, Ilara? Another battle? Would it truly bring peace, or just fleeting vindication, leaving bitterness?" She took a conscious, deep breath. The pressing accusation seemed to recede. The words of defense formed, poised on her lips, but remained unspoken. A profound decision crystallized. No. Not now. Perhaps not ever in this way. She met his gaze, not with defensiveness, but with a quiet, unwavering presence. There was no defiance, no aggression, merely a steady, open clarity. It was a conscious withdrawal from the game of blame. And in that moment of choosing not to react, a profound shift occurred. The indignation, deprived of fuel, began to dissipate. A deep, quiet calm settled. It wasn't resignation. It was self-possession, a reclaiming of her inner territory. The heavy weight of needing external validation lifted. She felt a lightness, a profound sense of emotional sovereignty. She simply was, unburdened. Her colleague, disarmed by her unexpected calm, found his own anger faltering. The moment, charged with conflict, dissolved into quietude. Ilara had not fought. She had stood in her truth, finding a peace more enduring than any fleeting victory. This capacity to pause, to observe, and to choose a conscious response is not merely anecdotal. It is profoundly rooted in the very structure and function of our brains. Our ancient amygdala, designed for immediate survival reactions, can, when unchecked, trigger an emotional hijack that bypasses the rational, deliberative processes of our prefrontal cortex. This is precisely why, when we are anxious or frustrated during language learning, our ability to concentrate, remember new vocabulary, and form coherent sentences seems to vanish. The brain, consumed by the internal clamor of reaction, simply lacks the available bandwidth to process new linguistic data efficiently. It's like trying to navigate a complex labyrinth while a thick fog rolls in, obscuring your path and dulling your senses. However, cultivating non-reactivity, an intentional choice to observe internal states without entanglement, transforms this dynamic. Scientific evidence from neuroimaging studies using fMRI and EEG consistently shows that periods of emotional calm and non-reactivity are associated with increased activation in the dorsolateral prefrontal cortex, the very region crucial for working memory, cognitive control, and sustained attention. These are indispensable faculties for dissecting English sentence structures, remembering irregular verbs, and internalizing new rules. When we are not consumed by internal drama, our brains are simply better poised to absorb, analyze, and integrate the complexities of a new language. This is not some abstract philosophical concept. It is a measurable neurological reality. Consider the affective filter hypothesis in second language acquisition. This filter, a mental barrier, prevents comprehensible input from reaching the language acquisition mechanism if the learner is anxious or unmotivated. Psycholinguistic research suggests that unchecked emotional reactivity can reduce a learner's capacity to process input by as much as 30–40%. Imagine trying to fill a bucket with water, but a significant portion spills out due to turbulence. Conversely, a calm, non-reactive state effectively lowers this filter, allowing for maximum absorption of new English information. It makes you porous, receptive, and open to the flow of language. This approach even impacts something as fundamental as dealing with mistakes. For many, the fear of errors is paralyzing. Every mispronounced word can trigger self-criticism and shame, creating a cycle of avoidance. But by cultivating a non-reactive stance, viewing errors as neutral stepping stones rather than personal failures, studies show a significant reduction in communicative anxiety and a higher rate of spontaneous speech. It's not about avoiding mistakes, but about not letting them paralyze you. The act of not reacting transmutes frustration into curiosity, shame into a learning opportunity, and fear into confident experimentation. This wisdom extends beyond merely personal interactions and into the very fabric of our public engagements, particularly in our increasingly interconnected and often confrontational digital world. Consider Kale navigating a bustling marketplace, a cacophony of voices and the scent of spices. A vendor, known for his sharp tongue, unleashed a cutting remark designed to belittle and provoke Kyle, making sure others overheard. "Look at this one," the vendor sneered, "lost in thought, no doubt, and soon to be lost in life if he keeps that dreamy look." The word stung, a familiar tension coiling in Kyle's gut. A jolt of electricity, a rise in blood pressure. The primal urge to lash out, to retaliate with an even sharper retort, was overwhelming. His hands clenched, jaw tightened, neck muscles strained. His mind became a battlefield of imagined comebacks, witty and precise, designed to humiliate. He could feel the heat rising, the familiar flush of anger. Every instinct screamed, "Don't let them get away with this." In the past, he would have succumbed, only to find himself entangled in bitter exchanges, his inner peace shattered, the fleeting satisfaction of a win quickly replaced by regret. But this time, something was different. As the taunt hung in the air, creating a ripple of amused glances, Kyle felt a subtle hesitation. He felt the raw power of the potential outburst, tasted the metallic edge of anger. But he observed it, not as himself, but as a tempest within. He remembered the weariness that followed previous reactions, the sense of having given away his energy, his serenity. A crucial question arose. What purpose would an explosive reaction serve here? Would it elevate me or drag me down? Is this fleeting malice worthy of my peace? A pause, almost imperceptible externally, but vast internally. He consciously deepened his breath, allowing the raw energy to pass through him, not take root within. He felt the tension in his jaw, acknowledged it, then allowed it to soften. His shoulders relaxed. He met the provocateur's gaze, not with fire nor fear, but with unwavering, quiet presence. No words, no dramatic gestures, just stillness. The vendor, expecting a duel, found his own energy deflated, his provocation failing to ignite. In that profound act of non-reaction, Kyle experienced an incredible redirection of energy. The force that would have been spent on conflict was transmuted. He felt a quiet victory, not over the other, but over himself. The venom, finding no purchase, dissipated. Cal felt an expansion within, a sense of inner spaciousness and light. He hadn't won a verbal battle, but he had won his own peace, his emotional liberty. A deep confidence beat within him, not ego's brittle confidence, but profound trust in his own ability to govern his inner world. He stood tall, not in defiance, but in self-respect, his dignity unassailable. His inner sanctum remained inviolable. He walked away not with regret, but with lightness of spirit, and an enhanced understanding of the power he held. This brings us to a crucial, perhaps revolutionary, insight for English fluency. The idea that silence, or non-reaction, is not weakness, but a profound and potent form of communication, a strategic superpower. In a world that equates constant noise and verbal articulation with strength, choosing silence can feel counterintuitive, almost like admitting defeat. But consider the profound impact of the unwritten lines in a poem, the empty space around a sculpture, the pause between musical notes that gives the melody its meaning and power. These aren't absences. They are essential elements that define and elevate the art. So too with human interaction, and, crucially, with language. When you refrain from an immediate, reactive response in English conversation, you are not surrendering. You are creating space. You are signaling that your words, your energy, and your presence are valuable commodities, not to be squandered on every passing demand. You are allowing the situation to breathe, to unfold naturally, giving yourself time to consider, to choose, to respond from a place of wisdom rather than impulse. Think of it. When you're speaking English and you're struggling to find the right word or phrase, the immediate reactive impulse might be to panic, to stammer, to blurt out something incorrect, or to retreat into silence out of embarrassment. But what if, instead, you embraced that pause? What if you allowed the silence to linger, not as a void of inadequacy, but as a space for your mind to calmly access your knowledge? This non-reaction dismantles the tyrannical grip of the inner critic, that voice screaming, "You'll make a mistake, you'll sound foolish." By observing that voice without giving it power, you liberate yourself. A mispronunciation is no longer a catastrophe demanding immediate emotional reaction, but merely a piece of information. Ah, so that's how that word sounds. The learning becomes organic, devoid of the emotional baggage that makes us reluctant to speak again. This quiet power deeply influences your ability to listen in English. Most of us, when conversing, are not truly listening. We are formulating our next response, rehearsing arguments. This is a subtle reaction. When you truly practice non-reaction in listening, you let go of this internal preparation. You simply absorb the sounds, rhythms, meanings, allowing them to wash over you without immediate interpretation or counter-formulation. This allows you to grasp nuances you might otherwise miss, to truly understand the speaker's intent, and consequently to formulate a response that is not just quick, but genuinely relevant and insightful. This kind of deep listening is a prerequisite for authentic communication and a hallmark of true fluency, far beyond mere grammatical correctness. This profound shift from reactive to responsive living, particularly in the context of English language acquisition, is truly about becoming the architect of your inner experience. Many learners react to their perceived non-native status with self-consciousness or a sense of inferiority, which often prevents them from fully engaging, experimenting, and embracing their unique voice in English. By choosing not to react to these labels or self-imposed limitations, you transcend them. You stop seeing yourself as a learner perpetually striving, and start seeing yourself as a speaker, capable of expression, even with imperfections. This liberation from self-judgment allows your natural, authentic personality to emerge in the new language, making communication not just more effective, but also more enjoyable and genuine. English becomes less of a tool to be wielded perfectly and more of a vibrant medium for your own self-expression, faults and all. Consider the journey of Lena, whose heart was deeply invested in a grand vision for a meaningful project. For years, she poured her passion and intellect into it, visualizing its triumphant culmination. Then came the news. Funding withdrawn. Primary partner pulled out. The entire endeavor crumbled. The initial blow was physical, a hollow ache, a gasp of profound shock, a tidal wave of despair, frustration, self-blame, and injustice. "Why me?" echoed, followed by, "What was the point?" Tears welled, blurring her vision. The seductive pull of victimhood was strong, promising solace in wallowing. Her body felt heavy, drained, screaming to collapse under the magnitude of failure. The urge to lash out, to blame, to rage against the unfairness. It would have been so easy to give in to futility, to let the failure define her. Yet, even amidst the rubble of her hopes, a faint whisper surfaced. Is this truly an ending, or merely a pivot point? Can I respond to this loss differently than in the past? Can I meet this pain not with a reactive scream, but with a deliberate, courageous breath? She allowed the wave of sorrow to wash over her, observing it without fighting or numbing it. She chose to experience it fully, but without being entirely engulfed. She took deliberate breaths, anchoring herself in the present. She recalled that while the outcome was beyond her control, her response to this loss was entirely within her power. She consciously unlinked the disappointment from her inherent worth. This failure, she realized with quiet clarity, was an event, an outcome, not a judgment on her being. It was a lesson, not a condemnation. In that profound act of acceptance, a deep sigh escaped her, carrying a tangible portion of the crushing weight. It wasn't instant joy, but a quiet, resolute acceptance. Her future, once defined by that shattered goal, now stretched out differently shaped, mysterious, but full of new potential. A resilient kernel within her began to glow. This wasn't the end of her purpose. It was a re-evaluation, a refining. She felt a burgeoning fortitude, a quiet courage to pick herself up, not out of stubbornness, but from a deep trust in her own capacity for renewal, for learning, for growth. The disappointment lingered, a phantom ache, but it no longer paralyzed her. It became a profound teacher, refining her understanding of effort, outcome, and the true source of her self-worth. She had achieved an immense victory in her inner world, embracing impermanence and affirming the enduring strength of her spirit. This quiet revolution of taking back ownership of our emotional lives is profoundly applicable to navigating the challenges of learning English. Let's bring this philosophy down to the trenches of everyday linguistic life. Imagine you're in a crucial online meeting with international colleagues speaking English. An important question is posed to you, perhaps challenging a point you just made. The reactive instinct might be to immediately defend, to rush into an answer, to show no weakness. But the one who has cultivated the power of non-reaction will perceive the incoming challenge, acknowledge the internal flutter of anxiety, and then deliberately choose their response. There's a crucial difference between a reaction, automatic, often emotional, and a response, conscious, considered, born from internal equilibrium. In that moment, the ability to take a breath, to allow a brief silence, to consciously choose words rather than letting them spill out, communicates profound confidence and authority in English. It shows that you are not at the mercy of the situation, but rather the master of your own expression. This is not about being slow. It is about being deliberate, thoughtful, and ultimately more impactful. This is your personal kukwei-sei, a sudden, powerful shift in direction, from being driven by circumstance to driving your own narrative. This subtle power extends to how you engage with online English content. This is not about being slow. It is about being deliberate, thoughtful, and ultimately more impactful. This is your personal kukwei-sei, a sudden, powerful shift in direction, from being driven by circumstance to driving your own narrative. This subtle power extends to how you engage with online English content. That inflammatory comment on a public forum, the unsolicited advice from a stranger on social media, the thinly veiled jab from a friend in your feed, all potential provocations. The immediate, visceral urge is to respond, to correct, to defend. But what if you don't? What if, instead, you treat these digital provocations like gnats buzzing around a picnic? You notice them, perhaps acknowledge their presence, but you don't engage in a frantic, exhausting swatting match. The gnat, finding no purchase, eventually moves on. The troll, deprived of the fuel of your reaction, often withers away. The sheer liberation of simply scrolling past, of archiving that email without a reply, of letting that text message sit for an hour, or a day, or forever, without feeling the compelling urge to compose an instant, witty riposte. This isn't just about saving your energy. It's about preserving your dignity and, crucially, preserving your mental space for genuine English practice and learning. Every time you refuse to be drawn into a pointless online debate in English, you silently assert your boundaries, protecting your inner peace and your valuable cognitive resources for more productive engagement. So, how do we integrate this profound wisdom into our daily lives, particularly as we strive for greater English fluency? Let us distill it into a few actionable principles, a practical compass for your journey. Embrace the 5-second pause. This is your fundamental anchor. When confronted with any stimulus that threatens to trigger an automatic reaction, whether it's an irritating email, a perceived insult, a challenging question in English, or even your own internal frustration, consciously inhale,
Then exhale for a full 5 seconds before you speak, move, or even think your reply.
This simple act reclaims your control and allows your higher cognitive functions to engage. In English practice, this means when you're asked a question, don't rush. Breathe. Allow the silence. Let your brain calmly retrieve the words, rather than frantically grasping for them. 2. Observe without judgment. Cultivate the lighthouse keeper's perspective. When emotions arise, anger, embarrassment, frustration over a linguistic mistake, observe them as transient weather systems. I notice a surge of frustration, you might silently articulate in English, and I feel a tightening in my chest. By naming the emotion and witnessing its physical manifestation without entanglement, you prevent it from taking root and hijacking your learning process. This practice lowers your affective filter, making your brain more receptive to English input. 3. Question your narrative. Challenge the stories your mind immediately constructs. When you make an error in English, does your mind immediately spin a tale of inadequacy? I'm terrible at this? Pause. Ask, is it possible this is just a learning opportunity? Is this really a reflection of my worth, or just a part of the process? Disentangle the objective fact, an error occurred, from the subjective, self-defeating interpretation. This cultivates resilience and transforms mistakes into valuable data points for growth. 4. Choose your response. Don't react. This is the heart of intentionality. Having paused, observed, and questioned, you now have the sovereign power to choose how you will engage. If you receive critical feedback on your English pronunciation, your chosen response might be, "Thank you for the clarity. I will practice that." Not an emotional defense, but a deliberate, wise decision aligned with your goal of fluency. In an English discussion, instead of a reactive argument, choose to respond with curiosity or a request for clarification, demonstrating profound control and deeper listening. 5. Embrace strategic silence. Understand that silence is not emptiness or weakness, but a powerful form of communication. In English conversations, a deliberate pause before speaking, or a calm silence when provoked, communicates confidence, respect, and thoughtfulness. It gives you time to formulate articulate responses, allows others to process, and asserts your dignified presence. It is in these moments of quiet fortitude that your command of English and your inner strength shine brightest. My friends, the journey from being perpetually reactive to consciously responsive is the ultimate liberation. It is about understanding that true power isn't about the volume of your voice, but the depth of your presence, the intentionality of your choices, and the profound dignity you maintain by being the calm center in the storm. It's the ability to let go of the need to control the external world, and instead master the internal one. This isn't just a strategy for language learning. It's a philosophy for life, opening doors to a level of mastery that transcends mere words, touching upon the very core of who you are as a communicator in the vast interconnected tapestry of human experience. If this exploration of inner power and its profound connection to your English fluency has resonated with you, if it has sparked a quiet recognition within, then I invite you to join our growing community here on English with Rambo. Consider pressing that like button, subscribing to our channel for more insights into mastering both your inner world and your English, and sharing this video with anyone who might benefit from this message. What is one specific situation where choosing not to react transformed your experience? Share your thoughts and stories in the comments below. Your wisdom enriches us all. And as you continue on this fascinating path, remember, the most profound conversations often begin in the quiet spaces between words. Next time, we'll explore the subtle art of deep listening and how it further unlocks your linguistic and personal potential. Until then, stay calm, stay curious, and keep cultivating that inner stillness.